everybody, and welcome back to The Shining, where today we're going to be talking about 1986 classic, The Fly, directed by David Cronenburg, who, if you are not already familiar with, he also is the same gentleman who gave us Scanners. He also gave us Jason X. So, there's that. But he also gave us The Fly, so David Cronenberg saved himself, in my opinion, especially after I saw that he was the one that directed Jason X, and I really was upset, but it's okay. It's okay. Back to the topic. So, on Christmas, I received the box set for the Fly collection, and so I was like, why not? I'll go ahead and watch this one. It had Jeff Goldblum in it, so I mean, I didn't really have much of a choice, and it had Gina Davis, so I was like, I gotta watch this movie and see what it's about. Now, I am not typically a huge sci-fi horror person. I like Alien. However, I don't like aliens. Like, I don't know. In my opinion, you have to kind of keep it 50-50 with the sci-fi horror, because, you don't want too much of one or too much of the other, because then it's just not as fun. So, anyway, I was looking forward to this movie. I was going to give it a chance, and I was open-minded about it, and it blew my mind away. So, it's very simple plot. I can explain it real quick. So it opens up, you have Jeff Goldblum, aka Seth Brundle, who is an eccentric scientist, to say the least. And Jeff Goldblum's acting throughout this whole movie is extremely over the top and extremely eccentric, but it's Jeff Goldblum and he does it beautifully. So you open up with Seth Brundle at this science convention, and then you have the lovely Gina Davis, who is playing Veronica Quaife, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. And she is a journalist, and so she starts small talk with Brundle. He kind of picks her up. I don't know. Takes her back to his weird lair, where he has invented these things called telepods. All it is it takes whatever you put in the one pod and teleports it into the other. Cool. Well, fast forward a little bit, it's the only two characters you're really focused on throughout this whole movie is Brundle and Miss Quaife, or Gina Davis, because, yeah. Well, he starts to get a little more excited about doing a human trial. Well, as we've all seen in any experimental, scientific, sci-fi horror movie, anytime there's a human trial, it never goes good. So, I mean, I could put that together myself. So he goes to telepod while Veronica is not there, and there was a fly in one of the telepods. So, when he transports, it splices the DNA of both. Now, the beginning part of this movie is a tad slow. There is no horror aspects or anything about it. It's very much just a scientist and his little new boo thing, and they're just excited about this telepod thing until he does the teleport with the fly. And even the directs are not directly after he comes out of the pod or anything, so it's still a slow progression for the transformation. And at first I really thought Homeboy was going to just turn into an actual fly, and he didn't. And I know that I've never watched the movie before this, so, it was called The Fly, so I just put two and two together. But I was not expecting what occurred after this. So then he starts to transform, but not on the outside at first. It's, he just kind of becomes a tad deranged, and he's already eccentric, so it's just kind of skyrocketed. And I mean, he goes nuclear. And once he starts finding out what happens, and then there's one scene in particular that I will warn anybody about, because I don't know, there's certain things in horror movies that will make me just cringe more than anything else, and that is anything to do with teeth or fingernails. And of course they had to go for a fingernail one, and it's just where his body was going brittle because he was turning into a bug. He was like peeling off his fingernails, and it was disgusting. It was so gross. And it just gets worse from there, because you can just see like his face, and even they incorporate the way he eats like a bug, which is, they like a fly has to throw up and then it dissolves the food and then it eats it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, but they incorporate it. But the part that I find extremely awesome about this movie is the use of practical effects. I am a huge fan of practical effects to begin with. Part of the reason why I like Stephen King films so much is because a lot of the times it's just beautiful, cheesy, practical effects that somebody made, and I love that. CGI definitely takes me out of a movie, especially if it's not done properly. Luckily, there is like no CGI in this movie when it comes to Brundlefly, which is what he calls himself when he finally realizes he's turning into a bug. Then he gets excited, which is twice as scary if you think about it. So, he turns into this disgusting creature, and I mean, it's rough. Even if you don't want to watch the movie, I still recommend you look up the transformation scene, because it was done beautifully. Probably one of the best practical effects in any horror movie up to this point. I mean, this came out in '86, so I'm gonna say that this was definitely above its time when it was released. The ending is extremely sad, so I'm just gonna let you know, if you haven't seen it, I'm about to spoil it for you. But yeah, it's really depressing. You do get one really gross kill in here. Not really a kill. It should have been. But it's rough. He spits whatever saliva thing, and it melts the guy's arm, but it shows it, and it's rough. Ow. Well, it ends with, Gina Davis having to be the one to kill the fly, which is also sad because that was like her lover, and then she had to kill him because he turned into this huge bug monster. Terrible, terrible, terrible situation to be put in. Okay, sorry, Gina Davis. She really has been put through it. I mean, she already died in Beetlejuice, and then this one she has to kill her man. Like, poor Gina Davis, cut her some slack. But overall, this movie, 8 out of 10. We'll say 8 out of 10. The reason I say 8 out of 10 is because it is slow at the beginning part, and I wish we could have had something, or maybe just the transformation starts sooner. I don't know. But what I did like about it is that I like that it's not full of horror, because it has really good character development. The story behind it is really effective. You just have two people, they're excited about this science project breakthrough, and then tragedy strikes. It's a very simple story. We've seen it in just about every other kind of movie out there. But what makes this movie effective is the use of, you have Jeff Goldblum, so you don't really need a ton of other characters anyway. He has a personality big enough on his own, and you have Gina Davis, who was already very well known at this point. So, I mean, you really don't have any need for a bunch of side characters, and I think where they invested the story so much into these two characters, that's why it was as successful as it was. And if you think about it, The Fly got a very similar treatment to House of Wax. House of Wax was a film made in, I believe it was 1953. And then they remade it in 2005, but the remake was nothing like the original at all. That doesn't mean that it was bad. They took a story and they twisted it. And The Fly did the same thing. The Fly is a very, very old horror movie. But they took it and twisted it, modernized it, and it works. So I think as far as a sci-fi horror movie, this 100% is one of the best ones, and I would compare it up there with Alien and Predator, respectively, because it is effective in what it does. The practical effects are amazing. Overall, the pacing is not bad. The beginning is a little slow, but the ending is worth it. So overall, this is almost the perfect movie, if you think about it in a good way, yeah. So, I definitely recommend this movie. If you have not watched this movie, please do, because I was hesitant to watch it. Watched it, and I'm very glad I did. However, I haven't watched the sequel, but that'll probably be saved. We'll do that. We'll do another video for that, because I'm usually a lot harsher on sequels than I am the original anyway. So, I'm just warning everybody. But you have to keep watching scary movies for me to keep talking about them. So keep watching them. Alright, well that's all for this episode. Y'all creep it real.